Can I get an encore? Do you want more? Cook and roll with the Brooklyn boys.
What is going on, guys? I'm going to get straight into this video, and it's a topic concerning training, and it's often neglected when we do discuss it, and it's what's known as a deload. So if you're not aware already, a deload is basically a reduced period of training where we take a number of factors into consideration, such as the weight, resistance on the bar, the volume and frequency of our training, but I will discuss this in more detail at the end of the video. So the main bulk of this video is going to be why and when to take a deload. But before I get into this, guys, the problem with deloads is they should already be in place before these problems arise, but this can be extremely difficult, and unless you're an experienced lifter, I am not myself, I can't do it, then I don't expect you to be able to structure these around your program so that these problems don't arise before you consider them. But another thing, and I know I keep going on about individuality and it depends on the person, but it does with deload, guys. If you are a 19-year-old compared to a 60-year-old, the older you get, the shorter recovery time you have. So when you are 60 years old, you may need to take a deload every 3 weeks, whereas when you're my age, 19, you may need to take a deload only every 3 months. And also with your program, if you're on the 531, for example, and it calls for a deload in the 4th week, you take the deload, guys. That's what I believe anyway. Unless you're an experienced lifter and you do not want to write your own program and you're following a program what is proven to work or work for you, and you know your body well enough to work around the problems what I'm about to discuss, and you can skip that deload on the 4th week or whenever it does call for it. But 90% of the time, if your program calls for a deload, you take the deload, guys. Alright. So the first factor you need to consider is when you become fatigued or have a lack of desire to train. So fatigued, if you are operating throughout the day like a zombie and you're struggling to get up in the morning, you're very lethargic throughout the day, you're probably suffering from a bit of fatigue. Now, as well as that, the lack of desire to train, what comes with this. So, I mean, we're all going to have good and bad workouts. There's nothing wrong with that at all. However, if you're suffering from bad workouts on a regular basis, so say you train 5 times a week and 4 out of them 5 times you could not be bothered going to the gym and your training was completely awful, the likelihood is, guys, you're just suffering from a bit of mental fatigue. It happens to us all. You can't be expected to go to the gym year in, year out without taking a break. We all need it. So that's one thing to look out for as to when you should maybe consider a deload. Secondly, we've got the problem of plateaus and that lack of progressive overload within our lifts. So take the bench press, for example. If you're benching 90 kilograms 5x5 and 3 weeks down the line you are still benching 90 kilograms 5x5. Now, this may be due to bad programming, guys, so that's when you start considering your set and rep schemes to work around these lifts. But also another big factor is you've probably overtaxed your central nervous system. So this is what generates our muscle contraction, guys, and when we overtax this, we become slower, we become weaker, and therefore when it comes to these lifts, we do not have any room for progressive overload. So if you're hitting any plateau, guys, that is another thing to consider, a deload. Now, a third problem what arises from training on a frequent basis is aches and pains within our joints, our tendons, and suffering from a lot of strains. Now, there is a difference, guys, between feeling tight in your legs, your glutes, your quads after leg day, the day or second day after this, and suffering from genuine pain. So a strain in your lower back where when you're bending over to pick things up, you know, you're getting a sharp pain in there. Now, I suffer with tendinitis myself in my left wrist. I don't know why I'm holding my right wrist. I suffer with it in my left wrist. And 90% of the time it's fine, I can train through it. But there's a 10% of the time where it flares up. And that's when I need to incorporate things into my training to work around this. So maybe reduce the weight for a couple of days, maybe reduce the volume for a couple of days to allow this to recover a bit better. So as I say guys, if you're suffering from any aches on a regular basis, you know, in a joint, in a tendon, then do consider a deload, work around this in your training or miss the gym completely. And that kind of moves me on to my other point on how to take a deload. So as I said at the start of the video, you've got the resistance, the volume and the frequency. So the most common one would be to reduce the weight and volume. So reduce the weight by 40 to 50%. Reduce the volume, you know, cut your sets in half and just go through the motions guys. So refine your form, your technique and get that mind muscle connection back. Also, you can reduce the weight and keep the volume the same, and vice versa. You can reduce the volume and keep the weight the same. So there's 3 already ways in which to deload. Now the 4th way is to miss the gym completely. And I mean, it depends on what problems you're suffering guys. In my opinion, if you're mentally fatigued, you have a lack of desire to train, I would miss the gym completely. Give yourself a rest for 4 or 5 days. Now again, if you're suffering from any sort of pain, lower back pain, you need to work around. Sometimes it is better again to miss the gym completely, unless you're working very lightly and not putting any pressure on that part of your body. Now, when we start talking about plateaus, I'd probably advise you just to drop the weight 40-50% and as I say, go through the motions. But it's completely up to yourself which path you choose to take. Now, the reason I've not had any videos up myself lately is one, because I have been on a deload and it's probably just an excuse. The main reason, I've had a lot of coursework guys at university and I've been preoccupied with that. But I've just finished my deload and I basically took 3 days away from the gym. This is the 4th day. I was planning on taking this 4th day off, but I feel like I'm ready to get back in the gym. And it's easy to rush these things guys, but really it was an experiment for myself to see how my training affects my appetite. And it's going to be difficult to tell. Obviously I'm back to 4,000 calories today guys, but I was on 3,500 calories, and what you've also got to remember is I had that 3.5 hour gap what I wouldn't usually have with training and pre-workout, so no food in between that time. And now I've got that into my day and I've reduced my calories, so I have got a bigger appetite. So we will see how I feel today and trying to get 4,000 calories in me. But as I say, it was just an experiment guys, to see how my training affects my appetite or if it correlates with it. But I'm going to wrap up this video here guys. I hope I covered some informative information. If you enjoyed the video, you know the script, give it a like. How often do you take a deload? Leave it in the comment section below. And if you happen to view this video and me for the first time, then feel free to hit that subscribe button. But until next time guys, count your macros and stay lean.